Malik's stomach growled so loud, he thought the whole street could hear it. He pressed his hand against his belly and tried to make the sound stop, but it was no use. He hadn't eaten since yesterday morning when he found half a sandwich in the trash behind the bakery. Now, standing on the busy sidewalk with people rushing past him like he was invisible, Malik felt like a ghost. His feet were bare. His shoes had fallen apart 2 weeks ago, and the concrete was cold beneath his toes. He tucked his hands into the pockets of his torn jacket and watched the city wake up around him. Men in suits, women in high heels, kids with backpacks heading to school. Everyone had somewhere to go. Everyone except him. Malik was 11 years old, but he felt much older. He lived in a rusty old van parked behind an abandoned warehouse. At night, he locked the doors and curled up on the back seat, listening to the sound of the city. Sirens, shouting, footsteps that made him hold his breath and pray nobody tried to break in. Every morning, he woke up hungry. Every day, he tried to stay out of trouble. That was the hardest part, staying out of trouble. People looked at him like he was dangerous, like he might steal something or break something or hurt someone, just because his clothes were dirty, just because he didn't have a home. Malik had learned to keep his head down and his hands where people could see them. He had learned to say sorry, even when he didn't do anything wrong. But today, something different happened. Malik was standing near the corner, trying to decide if he should walk to the soup kitchen 6 blocks away or search the alley for bottles he could sell, when he saw her, an old woman. She had white hair pulled back in a bun, and she wore a long blue coat that looked warm and soft. She carried a small brown purse over her shoulder. She was walking slowly, carefully, like each step took a lot of effort. Her face was wrinkled, but her eyes were kind. She reminded Malik of his grandmother, who had died when he was 7, before everything fell apart. The woman was trying to cross the street, but the crowd was thick. People bumped into her, pushing past without even looking. She stumbled a little, catching herself on a lamppost. Nobody stopped. Nobody cared. Malik watched her take a deep breath and try again. And then it happened. A man in a hurry, talking loud on his phone, waving his hand in the air, crashed right into her. The old woman gasped and fell forward, her purse slipping off her shoulder. She reached out, trying to grab onto something, anything, but there was nothing there except Malik. Without thinking, Malik ran. His bare feet slapped against the cold sidewalk as he lunged forward, catching the old woman just before she hit the ground. His arms wrapped around her shoulders, and he pulled her back, steadying her weight against his own thin body. "I got you," Malik said, breathing hard. "I got you. You're okay." The old woman blinked up at him, shocked. Her hands gripped his jacket, and for a moment, they just stood there, 2 strangers holding each other up in the middle of a rushing crowd. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was shaky. "Thank you, young man." Malik helped her stand up straight. He picked up her purse on the ground and handed it to her, making sure the strap was secure on her shoulder. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "Do you need to sit down?" The old woman smiled. It was the warmest smile Malik had seen in a long time. "I'm all right now, thanks to you." But the crowd didn't see it that way. People stopped, stared, whispered, "Is that boy bothering her? Somebody should call the police. Look at him. He's probably trying to steal her purse." Malik's heart dropped into his stomach. He took a step back, raising his hands in the air like he'd seen people do on TV when the cops came. I didn't. "It's okay," the old woman said quickly, reaching for his arm. "He helped me. He saved me from falling." But the whispers didn't stop. Malik's hand started to shake. This was it. This was the part where someone called the police, where they blamed him for something he didn't do, where everything got worse. He should run. He should disappear before. A car horn blared. Everyone turned. A sleek black car, the kind with shiny paint and windows, so dark you couldn't see inside, pulled up to the curb. The engine purred like a giant cat. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall. He wore a gray suit that probably cost more than everything Malik had ever owned in his whole life. His shoes gleamed in the sunlight. His watch sparkled. He had the kind of face that was used to getting what it wanted, sharp, Serious, powerful. The man's eyes locked onto Malik, and then they filled with anger. "Get away from my mother," the man shouted, marching toward them. His voice was loud, cutting through the noise of the street like a knife. "What did you do? What do you want?" Malik froze. The old woman was this man's mother? The man reached them in 3 long strides. He grabbed the old woman gently by the shoulders, looking her up and down like he was checking for injuries. "Mom, are you okay? Did he hurt you? Did he take anything?" "Victor, no." The old woman started, but her son wasn't listening. Victor turned to Malik, and his face was full of disgust. "I know what you're doing," he said coldly. "I know you're kind. You see an elderly person, someone vulnerable, and you think you can take advantage. Well, not today." Malik's throat closed up. He couldn't breathe. He wanted to explain, to tell the truth, but the words wouldn't come. All he could do was stand there, hands still in the air, feeling the weight of every eye on the street pressing down on him. The old woman pulled away from her son and stepped toward Malik. Her voice was firm now, strong. "Victor, stop. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Victor snapped. This boy, the old woman interrupted, her eyes flashing, "saved my life." The street went quiet. Victor blinked. "What?" The old woman took Malik's trembling hand in both of hers. Her touch was warm. "Safe. I was about to fall. The crowd was too rough, and I lost my balance. This young man caught me. He made sure I was safe. He gave me back my purse. He asked if I was hurt." She looked up at her son, and her voice was soft but full of disappointment. "He did what no one else would do. He saw me, and you want to punish him for that." Victor's face changed. The anger drained away, replaced by something else. Confusion. Shame. He looked at Malik. Really looked at him. For the first time, Malik stood there, barefoot and shaking, waiting for what would come next. Victor stood there, frozen, like someone had turned him into a statue. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked at his mother, then at Malik, then back at his mother again. The anger was gone from his face, but something heavier had taken its place. Something that looked like guilt. "Mom, Victor started, but his voice trailed off. The old woman squeezed Malik's hand one more time before letting go. She turned to face her son fully, and Malik could see something fierce in her eyes. Something that said she wasn't going to let this moment pass without making a point. "Victor," she said quietly, "when did you forget?" "Forget what?" Victor asked, his voice almost a whisper now. "What it's like to need help. What it's like to be afraid." She gestured toward the crowd that was still watching, phones out, recording everything. "All these people saw me stumbling. They saw me about to fall, and not one of them stopped. Not one, except him." She pointed at Malik, a boy with no shoes, a boy who looks like he hasn't eaten in days. "He stopped. He helped. And your first instinct was to accuse him of being a thief." Victor's face turned red. He looked down at his expensive shoes, unable to meet his mother's eyes. Malik wanted to run. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to turn around and disappear into the crowd before things got worse. But his feet wouldn't move. It was like he was stuck in cement. The old woman turned to him with gentle eyes. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Malik," he said, his voice barely audible. "Malik," she repeated, like she was tasting the word. "That's a strong name. How old are you?" 11. She nodded slowly, and her eyes filled with something that made Malik's chest hurt. It looked like sadness, like she understood things about him that he hadn't said out loud. "Where are your parents, Malik?" The question hit him like a punch. Malik felt his eyes start to burn, and he blinked fast, trying to push the tears back. "Gone," he said. "My mom died when I was 9. My dad, he left before that. I don't remember him." "Who takes care of you?" Malik swallowed hard. This was the part people never believed. The part that made social workers shake their heads and police officers ask too many questions. "Nobody," he said. "I take care of myself." Victor's head snapped up. "You're alone?" You're 11 years old and you're living alone. Malik nodded, shame burning in his cheeks. He shouldn't have said anything. Now they'd call someone. Now they'd try to put him in another foster home. And the last one had been so bad that living in a van felt safer. Where do you sleep? The old woman asked gently. In a van, Malik admitted. Behind the old warehouse on 5th Street. It's not so bad. The door's locked. I'm safe there. Safe, Victor repeated, and his voice cracked. A child sleeping in a van is not safe. It's better than some places. Malik shot back, surprising himself at his own boldness. At least nobody yells at me there. Nobody hits me. Nobody tells me I'm worthless. The words hung in the air like smoke. The old woman's eyes grew wet. She reached out and touched Malik's cheek, and he flinched at first, then leaned into her hand because it had been so long since anyone had touched him with kindness. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. You are not worthless. Do you hear me? You are not worthless. Malik's throat tightened. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that someone like him, someone dirty and poor and broken, could be worth something. But it was hard. So hard. Victor cleared his throat. When Malik looked at him, the tall man's eyes were red. I'm sorry, Victor said. I didn't see what my mother saw. He took a deep breath. When I looked at you, I saw someone who didn't belong. Someone who might be dangerous. And that says more about me than it does about you. Malik didn't know what to say to that. My son has forgotten where he came from, the old woman said, and there was sadness in her voice now. He has money now, power, a big house and a fancy car, but he didn't always have those things. She looked at Victor. Did you, son? Victor shook his head slowly. The old woman turned back to Malik. When Victor was 7 years old, we were homeless too. Malik's eyes went wide. You were? We were, she confirmed. His father left us with nothing. I worked 3 jobs, but we still couldn't afford an apartment. We slept in our car for 8 months. We ate at shelters. We wore clothes from donation bins. Her voice was steady, but Malik could hear the pain underneath. People looked at us the same way they looked at you today, like we were invisible, like we didn't matter. Victor's hands were shaking now. He shoved them into his pockets, but Malik could still see his shoulders trembling. What changed? Malik asked. I got lucky, the old woman said. I met someone who gave me a chance. A woman who owned a cleaning company. She hired me, trained me, and eventually I took over the business when she retired. I'd built it into something bigger. I made sure my son went to college. I gave him opportunities one never had. She looked at Victor with a mixture of love and disappointment. But somewhere along the way, he forgot what it felt like to be hungry, to be afraid, to be judged. Victor's face crumpled. Mom, I'm not angry at you, Victor, she said softly. I'm just sad, because I thought I taught you better than this. The silence that followed was heavy. Malik shifted his weight from one bare foot to the other. His stomach growled again, louder this time, and he wanted to die of embarrassment. The old woman heard it. When did you last eat? She asked. Yesterday morning, Malik admitted. Yesterday morning, she repeated, and her voice hardened. She turned to her son. Victor, give me your wallet. What? Your wallet. Now. Victor pulled out his wallet, thick leather, probably cost more than Malik's van, and handed it to his mother. She opened it, pulled out several bills, and pressed them into Malik's hands. No, Malik said immediately, trying to give the money back. I can't. I didn't help you for money. I just want to make sure you were okay. I know that, the old woman said firmly, but you need to eat, and I need to know you're going to be okay. Please, take it. Malik looked down at the money in his hands. It was more money than he'd seen in months. Enough for food. Maybe enough for new shoes. Maybe enough for... This isn't right, Victor said suddenly. Malik's heart sank. Here it comes, he thought. The man changed his mind. He's going to take the money back, and giving him cash isn't enough, Victor continued, and his voice was different now. Strong. determined. "Mom, we can't just give him money and walk away. Look at him. He's 11 years old. He's barefoot. He's living in a van. We can't just leave him like this." The old woman smiled. It was the first real smile Malik had seen on her face. "What are you suggesting?" Victor looked at Malik, and this time there was no judgment in his eyes. Only something that looked like hope. "I'm suggesting we help him. Really help him." Malik's heart started beating faster. "What do you mean?" Victor knelt down so he was at Malik's eye level. "I mean we make sure you have food, clothes, a safe place to sleep. I mean we make sure you go to school. I mean..." He paused, like he was trying to find the right words. "I mean we don't let you face the world alone anymore." Malik's eyes burned again. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." "Because you saved my mother," Victor said simply. "And because..." He glanced at his mother, then back at Malik. "Because someone once helped us when we had nothing, and we never forgot. Or at least, we shouldn't have forgotten." The old woman placed her hand on Victor's shoulder. "We have a big house," she said to Malik. "Too big, really, for just the two of us. There's a guest room with a real bed, a kitchen full of food, a bathroom with hot water." Her voice softened. "There's space for you if you want it." Malik stared at them both, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You want me to come home with you?" "Yes," the old woman said. "But..." Malik's mind raced. "But people like me don't belong in places like that. I'm nobody. I'm just..." "You're Malik," the old woman interrupted gently. "You're the boy who stopped when everyone else kept walking. You're the boy who saw someone who needed help and didn't think twice. You're the boy who just taught my son a lesson about humanity that I've been trying to teach him for years." She held out her hand. "You're not nobody, sweetheart. You're somebody very special. And we would be honored if you'd come home with us." Malik looked at her hand, then at Victor, who nodded encouragingly. His whole life, Malik had been running from danger, running from pain, running from people who wanted to hurt him or use him or throw him away. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop running. Slowly, carefully, Malik reached out and took the old woman's hand. The car ride was the quietest 15 minutes of Malik's life. He sat in the back seat of Victor's black car, his dirty hands folded in his lap, trying not to touch anything. The seats were made of leather, so soft it felt like sitting on a cloud. The car smelled like new things and expensive things, and Malik was terrified he would somehow ruin it all just by breathing. The old woman, her name was Margaret, she had told him, sat beside him, her warm hand resting gently on his shoulder. Victor drove, glancing at Malik in the rearview mirror every few seconds, like he was checking to make sure this was all real. Malik stared out the window and watched the city change. The buildings got nicer. The streets got cleaner. The people walking on the sidewalks wore clothes that looked brand new. And then they turned into a neighborhood that looked like something from a movie. Big houses. Huge houses. Houses with gates and gardens and trees that looked like they were planted on purpose, not by accident. Victor pulled into a driveway, and Malik's mouth fell open. The house was enormous. 3 stories tall, with white walls and big windows that sparkled in the afternoon sun. There was a garden in front with flowers, in colors Malik didn't even have names for. A fountain bubbled peacefully near the entrance. "This is where you live?" Malik whispered. "This is where we live," Margaret corrected gently. "And now it's where you live too if you choose to stay." If he chose to stay. Like he had a choice. Like he wasn't dreaming and about to wake up in his coal van. Victor parked the car and came around to open Malik's door. Malik climbed out slowly, his bare feet touching the smooth driveway. He felt so out of place, like a stray cat that had wandered into a palace. "Come on," Victor said, and his voice was kind now. "Soft. Let's get you inside." They walked to the front door, and Malik stopped breathing. The inside of the house was even more beautiful than the outside. The floors were made of wood that gleamed like glass. There was a staircase that curved upward like something from a fairy tale. Paintings hung on the walls. Real paintings, not posters. And everything was clean. So clean it almost hurt to look at. "Are you hungry?" Margaret asked. Malik's stomach answered for him with a loud growl. Margaret smiled. "I'll take that as a yes." "Victor, why don't you show Malik to the guest room while I make us some food?" Victor nodded and gestured for Malik to follow him up the stairs. The guest room was on the second floor at the end of a long hallway. Victor opened the door, and Malik stepped inside, his heart pounding. The room was bigger than the entire van he'd been living in. There was a real bed, a huge bed with a thick mattress and pillows that looked like clouds. There was a desk by the window, a bookshelf filled with books, a closet, a dresser, and through another door, Malik could see a bathroom with shower and a toilet and a sink with shiny faucets. This is too much," Malik said, his voice shaking. "It's not too much," Victor said firmly. "It's what you deserve." He walked over to the closet and opened it. "These clothes belonged to me when I was younger. My mom never threw them away. They might be a little big, but they'll work until we can get you some new ones." He pulled out a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, and some socks. "There are towels in the bathroom. Take a shower, get cleaned up, and come downstairs when you're ready." "Okay." Malik nodded, unable to speak. Victor started to leave, then stopped at the door. He turned back, and his eyes were serious. "Malik, I want you to know something. What I did today, how I treated you, that was wrong. I judged you without knowing anything about you. I saw your appearance and made assumptions, and that's not the kind of man I want to be." He took a deep breath. "My mother is right. I forgot where I came from. I forgot what it's like to be powerless. But you reminded me, and I'm grateful for that." "You don't have to be grateful," Malik said quietly. "I just did what anyone should do." "But most people don't," Victor replied. "That's what makes you special." He smiled. "Take your time up here. We'll talk more over dinner." When Victor left, Malik stood in the middle of the room, afraid to move. Afraid that if he touched anything, it would all disappear. But eventually, his body made the decision for him. He was so dirty, so tired, so desperate for something as simple as hot water. He walked into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and watched steam fill the air. Then he stepped under the water, and for the first time in months, Malik cried. He cried for his mother, who had tried so hard to keep them together before she got sick. He cried for all the nights he'd spent cold and afraid. He cried for all the times people had looked at him like he was trash. And he cried because, for the first time in so long, someone had looked at him like he mattered. When Malik finally came downstairs, clean and dressed in clothes that smelled like laundry soap, Margaret was setting food on the table. Real food, a roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, bread that was still warm, and a tall glass of milk. Malik sat down carefully, like the chair might break under him. "Go ahead," Margaret said, smiling. "Eat." Malik ate. He ate until his stomach hurt in the best way possible. He ate until he couldn't eat anymore, and even then, Margaret wrapped up the leftovers and told him he could have them for breakfast. After dinner, they sat in the living room. Malik on the couch, Margaret in her chair, Victor standing by the window like he was still trying to figure out how he felt about everything. "Malik," Margaret said gently, "we want you to stay here, not just for tonight, for as long as you need. We want to help you get back into school. We want to make sure you have everything you need to build a good life." Malik's chest tightened. "But why? I'm nobody. I'm just some kid you met on the street." "You're not nobody," Victor said, turning from the window. "You're the kid who saved my mother. You're the kid who showed me what real courage looks like. You're the kid who deserves a chance." He walked over and sat down beside Malik. "When I was your age, someone gave my mom a chance. Someone saw her potential when everyone else saw a homeless woman with a kid. That chance changed our lives. And now we have the ability to do the same thing for you. What if I mess up?" Malik asked, his voice small. What if I'm not good enough? Margaret leaned forward. Then we'll help you learn. We'll help you grow. That's what families do. Families, Malik repeated. Families, Margaret confirmed. Not just by blood, but by choice. We're choosing you, Malik. The question is, will you choose us? Malik looked at them both. This old woman who had been kind when she had every reason to be afraid, and this man who had learned to see past his own privilege. They weren't perfect. They had made mistakes. But they were here. They were offering him something he thought he'd lost forever. A home. I choose you, Malik whispered. Margaret's eyes filled with tears, and she stood up, walked over, and wrapped Malik in a hug. Victor put his hand on Malik's shoulder, and for the first time in years, Malik felt like he belonged somewhere. That night, Malik lay in the big bed with the soft sheets and stared at the ceiling. He could hear the house settling around him. Quiet, peaceful, safe. He thought about the morning, about how close he'd come to walking away from that old woman, about how easy it would have been to keep his head down and mind his own business. But he hadn't. He had stopped. He had helped. And that one choice had changed everything. 3 months later, Malik stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his new backpack. His hair was cut. His clothes fit. He had shoes, real shoes that didn't have holes in them. Margaret appeared in the doorway, smiling. Ready for your first day of school? Malik nodded, feeling nervous and excited at the same time. Victor was waiting downstairs with the car keys. I'll drive you, he said, and I'll pick you up after. We'll get ice cream to celebrate. As they drove toward the school, Malik looked out the window at the city. The same city he'd walked through for years, invisible and afraid. But now everything looked different, because he was different. At a red light, Malik saw a homeless man sitting on the corner, holding a sign. Malik's chest tightened with recognition. He knew that look, that fear, that hunger. Victor, Malik said suddenly, can we stop? Victor pulled over. Malik reached into his backpack and pulled out his lunch, a sandwich Margaret had made that morning, an apple, and a bottle of water. He got out of the car, walked over to the man, and handed him the food. Here, Malik said, I thought you might be hungry. The man's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you so much. Malik smiled. Someone helped me once. Now I'm helping you. When he got back in the car, Victor was staring at him with something that looked like pride. That was a good thing you did. That's what families do, Malik said, repeating Margaret's words. We help people. Victor smiled and drove toward the school. Malik's story didn't end with a mansion or money or fancy clothes. It ended with a choice. The choice to see someone who needed help and not look away. The choice to be kind when the world expected cruelty. The choice to believe that people, all people, no matter how broken or poor or forgotten, deserve dignity. Margaret was right. Money didn't save Malik that day on the sidewalk. Kindness did. Courage did. Humanity did. And now, Malik carried that lesson with him everywhere he went, because he learned that the real treasure in life isn't what you have. It's who you choose to be. It's the hands you reach out when someone is falling. It's the moments when you choose love over fear. And it's a simple, powerful truth that we all have the ability to change someone's life, if we're brave enough to try. What choice will you make today? If this story touched your heart, give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe so you never miss stories that remind us what really matters in life. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever helped a stranger? Or has a stranger ever helped you? Let's inspire each other with real stories of kindness. Remember, you don't need money to make a difference. You just need a heart that's willing to see people, really see them, and choose compassion over judgment. Thank you for reading Malik's story. Until next time, choose kindness. Choose courage. Choose to be the person who stops when everyone else keeps walking.